This Eve, we're gonna be getting into, y'all remember that little damn riot when the people stormed the Capitol and stuff like that for Trump and shit like that. When was this? This was back in like earlier this year in January and stuff. If you ask me, I think they should get 10 years. And the reason why is because the Capitol, White House is several places that's supposed to be protected and secured. And when you breach them, then you get what I'm saying. The repercussions should be punishment of 10 years. That's how I feel about it. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know if everybody feel the same way, but that's how I feel about it. To my viewer that came in and came out, pew.
Back up around the Capitol, more U.S. Capitol and D.C. area police were on duty to beef up security ahead of today's rally in support of the January 6 rioters. CBS 17's Basil John reports on what brought people out for the event.
This is about equal treatment under the law.
A few hundred demonstrators wanted their voices heard at the Justice for J6 rally in Washington, D.C.
Because we have a real issue with transparency in the aftermath of January 6th.
Event organizer Matt Brainerd and other demonstrators say this event has nothing to do with the election or who is president.
I want to fight for what I believe in, and I want to teach my kids, if you believe in something strongly, do what you believe in. And that's why I'm here.
Those in attendance say this event is about getting a message out to all Americans, the need for fairness for nonviolent offenders from January 6th.
If you breach the Capitol, and yeah, you should get prosecuted. Nobody disagrees with that, but it should be fair. It should be our fair legal system.
The counter-protesters say those who were arrested and may still be in custody are getting fair treatment.
These people were breaking into the Capitol. They were in areas where they should not have been, and they were directly threatening the fundamental democratic process.
We have people who attack the Capitol, who threaten the lives of lawmakers, threaten the lives of law enforcement officers, and threaten the government. So they're getting far better treatment than they deserve.
Despite earlier concerns about potential violence, law enforcement worked to keep protesters and counter-protesters separated, and only 4 people were arrested in connection to the event. In Washington, Basil John, CBS 17 News.
No man has ever caught a whale this.
That shit crazy. Some people justifying that shit. I'm telling you, man. No parole, 10 years flat straight. You get what I'm saying? Minimal. You get what I'm saying? 10 years. You breach the White House, the Capitol, shit like that. It's certain places that shouldn't be damn breached. You get what I'm saying? And then all you doing is making other countries and shit like that look at us as vulnerable. You get what I'm saying? We have a weak defense system. That's how they looking at it. And then who knows? All of this shit maybe can be a decoy or something. Who knows? I don't know. Who knows?
Up a bit in the tropics. I have two new systems to tell you about this morning. Good news, though, neither look to impact us here in central North Carolina. That's what we like to see. We like to call these fish storms and keep them out to sea. Tropical storm Peter has formed as of 5 a.m. this morning. And as you can see, going to pass north of the northern Leeward Islands and then begin to make that turn as we head into the end of the week. So we're going to be talking about Peter all this upcoming week, just not going to be talking about any major land impacts. That's what we like to see with these systems. On its heels, a little closer to the west coast of Africa, we have Tropical Depression 17. And as you can see, also forecast to strengthen into a tropical storm if it does. Next name on the list is Rose. And then will continue its trek up to the north and northwest, but will be staying away from land, which again is good news there. We are cruising through our 2021 list of storm names for the Atlantic Basin. Peter, now our 16th named storm. Again, if we get Tropical Depression 17 strengthening into a tropical storm, Rose will be the next name on the list. Then you can see only 4 other names before we would go to that alternate list. So it's already been an active season and it continues to remain one. That's where you always want to make sure you're prepared. We're
concern at the southern border. Nearly 13,000 migrants huddling under a bridge in Texas, mostly from Haiti after that devastating earthquake. ABC's Marcus Moore tonight from Texas.
Tonight, city leaders declaring a state of emergency in the small Texas town of Del Rio. Nearly 13,000 men, women, and children have converged on the border town to seek asylum, and they're being held in squalid conditions in this temporary staging area under the Del Rio International Bridge.
What you see behind me are individuals that have not even been processed or detained.
The shade under the bridge offering little escape from stifling triple-digit heat, food and clean water becoming scarce.
This is as bad as I've ever seen it.
Governor Greg Abbott ordering state police and National Guard to assist overwhelmed border agents. Sources say the majority of the migrants are from Haiti, the nation still reeling from the assassination of its president and last month's earthquake. More than 208,000 apprehensions were reported at the southern border in August, a 317% increase over the same month last year. Today, DHS Secretary Alexander Mayorkas saying that they are working to address the influx, stating they will employ the use of Title 42, a Trump-era health policy which permitted the expulsion of migrants without allowing them to seek asylum.
We have authorities by reason of that special circumstance, and we will exercise those authorities.
And David, more people could be on the way. Officials anticipate that an additional 8,000 men and women could come here over the next several days. Customs and Border Protection officials trying to get a handle on this situation that seems to be getting worse. David.
Marcus Moore in Del The Pentagon now admitting the deadly drone strike in the last days of the U.S. withdrawal from Kabul was a, quote, tragic mistake. 10 civilians, including 7 children, killed in the blast. Here's our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz.
Tonight, the U.S. military admitting to a horrific mistake that left 7 innocent children and 3 innocent adults, including an aid worker for an American company, dead.
I offer my profound condolences to the family and friends of those who were killed. Our investigation now concludes that the strike was a tragic mistake.
The deadly attack came just 3 days after a suicide bomber killed 13 American service members and some 170 Afghans at the Kabul airport. The Pentagon said intelligence indicated another attack was imminent. So for 8 hours, U.S. drones then followed a car they thought had linked up with ISIS-K. Officials say when the driver loaded the vehicle with what they thought were explosives, a Hellfire missile was launched. Even days later, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs supporting the strike.
We had very good intelligence that ISIS-K was preparing a specific type vehicle at a specific type location, and it was a righteous strike.
But it was this New York Times investigation that first called the strike into question. The driver of the car was identified as Zamri Ahmadi, an aid worker who they determined from this surveillance video was loading water canisters into the car with his colleagues, not explosives. Today, the Secretary of Defense also acknowledging the mistake, saying, "We now know that there was no connection between Mr. Ahmadi and ISIS-Khorasan, that his activities on that day were completely harmless and not at all related to the imminent threat we believed we faced."
And Martha, I know the U.S. military is still promising a full investigation on this. The other major headline involving the Pentagon tonight, we heard from General Mark Milley on something else today as well. His first public comments about his calls to the Chinese in the final days of the Trump presidency, trying to convince them the U.S. Would not carry out military action. The general defending those calls?
He is, David. He says those calls to his Chinese counterpart were perfectly within the duties and responsibilities of his job, saying those calls are routine and are done to reassure both allies and adversaries. In this case, he said, in order to ensure strategic stability. And David, he said he will mount a vigorous defense when he is before Congress at the end of the